What does it take to name a brand for a market you've never stepped into? This is How the World Names, conversations with members of We Are Naming, the global network of experts shaping the future of international brand development. In this series, we explore what's wonderful and weird about the languages, cultures, and countries we represent. Hi, and welcome to How the World Names. I'm Caitlin Barrett, the U.S. partner of We Are Naming, and today I am joined by Felipe Valério, our partner in Brazil. Hello, Felipe.
Hello, hola.
Hola. I would love for you to get us started by telling me and everyone listening a little bit about your naming practice. Kind of how do you operate? What kind of work do you do? And anything you want to share about how you got here.
Yes, for sure. That's interesting because for me to talk about my naming practice, I need to talk about my word relationship. When I was a kid, I moved from city to city because my father was in the industrial businesses. And then in one of these moves, I just arrived at the classroom and all the kids knew how to write and read, except for me because it was like a school change, and then I had to do it really quickly. And because of that, I did not do calligraphy. So my handwriting is really ugly. And that ignited me the movement for like, you have to write, you have to keep writing because you have to improve your handwriting. And that was fun because at some point I realized that it's good to write when nobody knows what you're writing. So as a kid, I started to keep several diaries and journals where I write the way I wanted. But that was the moment I just realized that writing could be fun. The thing is, you grew up, and then when you start to work, for some reason, I don't know why, we start to avoid our passion because for some reason we think that we should not mix like our passions with our work. So I work in TV production, I worked in hospitality. It took me some time to understand that I could work with words. It was like the fun part of my life. And then I just saw a position from Interbrand with the line verbal identity analyst, and I thought that was so cool because I have never seen that name, and I thought it could be related to dealing with words in a much more kindly, friendly, and different way. And then when I just arrived there, I worked at Interbrand for 10 years. When I just arrived there, I entered this world of words that was really exciting from a perspective of someone who loved to write, but thought that it couldn't be something really inspiring at work. I thought, oh, it's like a work for writing for engineering companies. But I realized that it wasn't about that. It wasn't about the possibility to create names for some cool brands, to search some so different subjects in order to come up with something really inspiring. So the practice just like caught my attention, the possibility of creating something from scratch. It's not from scratch because we are always inspired by something. Uh, but then I realized that I could connect my passion with words with something related to my profession. And then from now on, I'm just like working with words, I would say. Because at the same time I create names, I also create some verbal identity deliveries for the clients.
So you, I think, do a great job of uniting your passion for words in a
Mhm.
professional sense. You know, you run your own verbal studio, but I also know you as someone who writes books and engages in so much creativity outside of work. And I would love for you to just talk a little bit about that relationship when you're, let's say, writing a children's book. Are you doing that as an escape from the branding work? Are you doing that as sort of oh, it's just more of the same thing I like to do? Do you feel like there's a relationship between the non branding work you do and the branding work?
That's so So interesting, Caitlin. Once I heard from a writer, he said, I was so tired of writing for a brand that I decided to write a book. So I believe that something like this, I relax from writing with another writing. So that's really interesting because it's different. Of course, we don't have like the lawyer when we're writing a book, which we know that's a huge challenge when we are talking about naming. But it's a way of provoking the words, or maybe to handling with some creative spaces that I could not feel when I was creating the names. Sometimes a naming project inspires my writing outside the office, and sometimes the opposite also happens. I start to read, for example, children's book, and I just realize how that word construction can be valuable in a naming project. So I would say it's escape, but it's a escape that I know when to come back.
That's that's important. I guess we always have to come back. We have to do the work.
Fortunately.
um, so you wrote a report about naming in Brazil, which everyone should read. We will link it in the show notes. Um, Everyone should read it because it's got a lot of useful information. But you also put things in very traditional Felipe fashion. It's very well written and very poetic. And you open with this line: "The country that gave the world bossa nova knows how to make words dance." So maybe let's start there and talk about that Brazilian relationship to language and how that makes naming unique in Brazil.
Yeah. I would say it's part of our life. I would say the Brazilians are emotional and playful. So we're full of emotions, and we also like to play, to have fun. Uh, I remember when I have lived in Australia for 1 year, and I just remember I was talking with a friend at a bus stop in Portuguese, and then an old man just approached us and said, "What language are you speaking?" And I was like, "Oh God," because normally after this sentence is like, "Speak our language," and then we said, "Oh, we're speaking Brazilian Portuguese," and the guy said, "It sounds like you're singing." And they said that's the most beautiful thing someone
That is
can
beautiful.
listen for another person. He said it sounds that's a cool language. It sounds like you're singing, and I believe that's fun because we are colonized by Portugal, and then over the years, like we embraced this language. Like I like to say, we speak Brazilian language. Every time I feel a linguistic report, I write from a Brazilian Portuguese perspective because we embrace it in a way so personal, so different, so plural, that I think it makes our language like this mix of emotions. We love to play with words. We have so many slangs because we are always trying our best, let's say, to play whenever it's possible. And it's kind of interesting because it obviously it will reflect on brands like this charming way of dealing with words. uh, it is common like when we are creating, well, myself, I will talk about myself. When I'm creating the names, I just imagine a group of people talking about this name, like in a barbecue, for example. Imagine my name is just arriving, the barbecue say my name is. I believe that's kind of the Brazilian mood. Like people will say, "Oh, I like this. So can I call you something? Can I call it this way?" Because it's like it's so dynamic the way we see words we hear. I don't know if it's the warm. I'm not sure if it's because it's a very big country, or even if we are always in search of making this language more proprietary, more Brazilian. I think that's part of the game also. Like, how can we use our Brazilian touch to guarantee that this language is truly ours? And at the same time, we have indigenous influence many immigrant groups. So naturally, this language is super flexible and versatile when we imagine the way people understand, listen, and talk about this. I believe that's a friendly approach to words. I believe we want to be friends of them.
So that fits with another thing that you write about, which is nicknames. That Brazilians love
Hmm.
to give nicknames. You have it in the report. We talk about it during our We Are Naming meetings about Meckies for McDonald's,
Yeah.
and one of my favorites is Zap for WhatsApp because I like that you
Hmm.
took it from the end. Not the most typical nicknaming
Yeah.
tactic. Can you talk about like the unique Brazilian love of nicknaming and maybe how you think about developing a brand name? Do you think like, okay, what will people nickname this to? Kind of how does that factor
Mhm.
in to how you think about naming?
Yeah, that's a good one, Caitlin, because we that's for sure. Like we have the zap. We have a sentence like "manda zap," send me zap. Like it's really famous here. Instagram, we just say Insta. And McDonald's is a great case because it started as a marketing campaign. Like everyone is saying Mac is why are we calling McDonald's in Brazil? And then they start to name some strategic stores as Mac's, and I believe they're still there because people are really used to that. They communicate Mac's until today. I believe the campaigns from 2019.
And Felipe,
Uh,
you've shown us they like put it physically on the signage,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yes,
like
that's another
they not
name.
just like letting
Yeah.
you call it that. They're saying it's
Mhm.
okay to call us this. It's a very like that's
No,
something that we don't do here. People call it Mickey D's, but you wouldn't see a
yeah.
McDonald's throw up a sign that said Mickey D's
No,
in
they
place of where it
change
would say
it.
McDonald's. Like they really went for it in Brazil.
Yes, it's physical. It's physical, and they the communication also they use Mackie as the name, so you can read it, you can see it, and that's incredible because I believe again that's part of our friendly approach to things. Like let's say Brazilians love to hug. Oh, we could believe that Brazilians hug words also. Like we like to have a friendly mood with that words, and we can see in different brands. We talked about Facebook. It's a bit strange, but we just call face here. Yeah, that's strange in English, but that's something we do. But at the same time, it's important to say, as a Brazilian, this is not a kind of a guideline. It's really tough to imagine that how I'm creating this brand so it will be a nickname. I believe it's like when you create it, if you see this possibility you may think like, oh, probably it will happen, but it's really tough to understand how people will get that name. For example, last year we created a name for HarperCollins imprint, focused on the young adults audience. The name is Pitaya because it's a fruit full of personality as the audience. I think 1 month later, people, if you go to social media, you can see people saying, I love you, Yaya. That's the YA, YA. I love you,
Uh-huh.
Yaya. I love you, Yaya. Oh, I miss you, Yaya. And that's so fun because I believe the brand doesn't have 1 year of launching.
Mm-hmm.
And people assume the nickname for Pitaya. And some people say Pitaya, some people say Yaya. So that's something that if it happens, it's because people feel very comfortable about expressing that. So I cannot imagine a brand launching a new name and saying this is my name, but you can call me this other name. I think Brazilians will say no, no, no. That's not how it works. That's
It
a
has to
coincidence.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that just sparks. That's not something that is strategic. So I would say, from a perspective of someone creating names in Brazil, this is not expected, but as we play with words, when you are creating, it's good for you to try to think if that word can become something bad, because people can create a nickname that's not that good. So it's just to keep in mind that the name is not, I would say, the name in Brazil is not a holy grail. It's not that thing that you cannot touch. Like,
Mm.
it's untouchable, it's perfect, it's polished. Like, if we feel we can change the beat or be more friendly, probably we will.
Yeah. And I think the flip side to that, it kind of fits in with the same thing of Brazilians being very vigilant. We're going to call
Hmm.
you out if you try to pull some bullshit. So I
Yeah,
feel like if you're getting a nickname, it's coming from an authentic place of tenderness, of feeling like, you've earned our affection. Or if you try to name something in a way that we think is inauthentic or, just
yeah,
isn't real, we're going to call you out on that. Can you talk about the flip side of that too, of Brazilians being like, no, no, no,
yes.
no, no, don't try and fool us?
Yeah, oh, you said the word. I think we have a BS detector. I would say it's like a BS detector. I think that happens also. We have 200 million people here, and we are super heavy users of social media in Brazil. Super heavy users. So, like, imagine heavy users, a big country, a country that likes to play with words. That's perfect for a meme. That's perfect for something that goes to internet and goes viral. So I believe that's what makes us vigilant, because it spreads like fire. It's really fast. There's the classic example of Mac Picanha. Picanha is a prime cut from prime beef cut. So when you see a sandwich called Mac Picanha, you imagine that, oh, it would be awesome, and then people just realize that it has no picanha in it, and like suddenly the whole social media was like, wait a second, with memes, with something went in going viral, and then Mac just said, my bad. As McDonald's here has this, let's say, close relationship, they just post something like, my bad, friends. And yeah, but then they just had to remove it from the menu and rethink about that. The same with the price of coffee rise really fast in Brazil, and then other brands of coffees that are not coffees start to come up, and then we just call it the fake coffee, the coffee, sorry, the coffee, and then people start to spread. This is not coffee. This is coffee. So we're like, Brazilians go to the internet to spread
Yeah.
anything that crosses their minds, and of course, brands are in the middle of that discussion. But I think it's how can I say, as a person who loves brands who are loyal to their speeches, to the things they believe. I think it's really powerful when a society shows the lack of confidence of some brands, or the lackness of truthness of some brands, just to make the society aware that why should we accept that? And when it comes to naming, it's like it's something you just need to stop and think. What I'm writing as a name is a fake promise. Of course, you can have an attribute, you can talk about agility, you can talk about speed, but when you say, like, you have an ingredient that's really appealing for the country, and somehow the country discovers that, finds out that this ingredient is not there. Oh, that's tough. That's a lack of trust. That's really tough. I think that's an example. I believe, like, brands should look at that from the whole perspective, identity and strategy and all this. But when it comes to name, I believe this is an example of something that uh, really went wrong.
Yeah, names really need to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So another thing about Brazil, and you mentioned this, is it's really big. And it's
Yes.
easy to assume a monoculture just because, there's only certain aspects of Brazilian culture that gets exported around the world. But that's not the reality of a massive
Mhm.
country. Can you talk a little bit about some of the differences you might find in different regions? How a single word might have different meaning from one
Yeah.
region to another, one kind of culture within Brazil to another?
Yeah, that's interesting, Caitlin, because uh, many people, when we talk about Brazil, imagine, for example, Rio de Janeiro, and they have their own slangs. São Paulo is the hush city with their own slangs. But as I mentioned, we have 200 million people, so you can imagine that words fly, and then they change the perception. For example, there's a word that always comes to my mind, which is cassava, the fruit cassava. Uh, if you are northeast of Brazil, probably you will say macaxeira. If you live in São Paulo, probably you will say mandioca, which is closer to manioc. And if you are Rio de Janeiro, for example, probably you will say aipim. So we understand like both of these meanings, but if you go to these places, obviously you will try to be more like them. There's a state, the second most populated state in Brazil is Minas Gerais. They use the word train. Train means train, the rail vehicle. But they use it as a synonym of thing. So, what is this train? Pass me this train, and that's something they use a lot. That's a mark from Minas Gerais. And imagine someone who does not know that and like just listen every time listen the word train thinks that we're talking about the rail vehicle. So that's crazy. I have another example that's fun. In some places they call bicycle, some places especially in Brasilia, they call bicycle camel. So we use camelo, the word in Portuguese. So camelo is a synonym of bicycle. Um, that's a bit crazy because that's really specific. But if you go to that place, there's a famous song in Brazil that they say Eduardo and his camelo and his camel. If you if you just listen, you think that's the animal, but it's Eduardo and his bike. So that's the mood here. Like it's really difficult to express just one way of being. That's why people always refer to Brazil saying it's a melting pot, because these things just cross and that's okay. But then if you travel a bit more, you will find different slangs, different words, and you're talking about the same country. So from a naming perspective, I don't think uh, people should be so concerned about, because it's probably you won't create a name for a city. If you want to create a name for a city, probably, but just for you to be aware that uh, checking the meaning of that word that seems so easy to understand, so plain, checking this word meaning in other regions in Brazil might be a good call.
And then, kind of to take the flip side of this, if I am entering the market in Brazil, and I really want to speak to the people of Brazil, and I am using to guide me all these tropes, kind of that you mentioned of Carnival and Rio, and these
Mhm.
these exports to the world that we see in movies and we read about, what are maybe some other watch outs, or how do people entering the market from the outside, are there mistakes that they make? Are there things that they do where you go, oh, that's obviously a US brand trying to pander to us? Or, just kind of any advice you might give to someone looking to enter the market without falling into some of those traps.
I would say come to Brazil first.
Great.
Come to Brazil, please
Incredible
come to
advice.
Brazil. Yeah, that's kind
Yeah,
of
that's
obvious, but come to
really,
Brazil
yeah.
because I'm always afraid of the postcard branding. Let's say the postcard brand, like we imagine countries and we imagine some postcards like, oh, this is samba, this is carnival, oh, this is luxury in France, for example, probably food in Italy, but it's probably just a slice of our understanding. And then we travel and we just realize, for example, that, oh, they're more similar to me than I imagined. So, like, I would advise people to circulate a bit. It's tough to try to create something so distant. For example, the Portuguese, the Brazilian Portuguese, and the Portuguese, the European Portuguese. Once I was called for a naming project just to give an advice. I didn't do the job. Someone from Portugal created a list of names, and they just sent it to me and said, Felipe, it's Portuguese, but just for you to see. And I think half of the list were problematic in Brazil. I said, I understand that's the same language, but that's not the same behavior. So I believe people should come. People should understand, like, that what they have in mind exists, but it's not something that defines the whole country. Yes, we have carnival, and that's awesome. But it does not define the whole country, because at the same time we have other festivals, cultural festivals and dancing festivals like carnival in different regions, and they do not call it like this. The indigenous approach to Brazil is also something that, oh, I will have this word which is based in indigenous dictionary. Wait a second, and it's not a matter if the word is positive or negative. How are you going to express that truth? It's probably would sound a bit forced, not very realistic. Sometimes when I answer linguistic checks and I see some names that are based in indigenous language, I just like point out this name probably is from indigenous dictionary glossary. So just be aware that the client need to, how can I say, need to embrace that name, and not only the word, embrace that story. Like it's something that, as we talked, Brazilians are really vigilant. We
Exactly.
would
Yeah, that
probably
bullshit
say,
detector will go off. Yeah.
wait a second. The person who created this name knows Brazil well, because something is not, something is a bit disconnected. So it's not I don't want to be the guy who says like, caution, be aware, it's dangerous. It's like it's a relaxed place. It's awesome to create words. We like to play with words, but we are really big, and as the Portuguese is not the language probably that someone outside Brazil speaks, like it's good just to be aware that a small change in a word may change the whole subject. For example, I would say five words here that are really close and they have no connection with each other. Sorte, norte, corte, morte, porte. I told you five different words from death to luck. That's bizarre. From death to luck. And they just change one letter. I know it happens in several languages, but just for us to be aware that it's not a matter of just like searching a word count. Try to visit the place, know the place, talk with
Yeah.
people from the place. Let's say try the food. Try the
Yes.
food.
Why
Like
not?
improve your senses.
Oh God, I'd love to do that. So Felipe, this is a big question. There's a lot of pressure on you, but is there one name that you think really captures the power of naming in Brazil, an iconically Brazilian name to you? What would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a tough question. But as I mentioned a lot about how we play with language and how we embrace the language that feel more Brazilian than from any other place. I would say a brand from it's a chocolate brand called Dengo. Dengo is a project created by a branding studio called Rebu, a Brazilian studio. Dengo is one of these untranslatable words in Portuguese. It's Dengo. Dengo, it's difficult to express. Dengo is like a natural gesture, a kind gesture, a gentle gesture. It's something like, I will give you a dengo. It's something really Brazilian. And I love this name because this word is really powerful in Bahia, and Bahia is the place where this chocolate is produced by small producers. So there's a whole chain to guarantee that the small producers are recognized through this brand. This brand is already outside Brazil, which makes it incredible because the word dango is traveling. So I would say, as an untranslatable word, a charming word for a big company, and that represents so well a region. I would say my call is dango.
I love
It's
that.
a word impossible to copy.
And it feels like we were talking about earlier, it feels true. They found
Yeah.
something true and specific. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I've asked you to prepare a statement for me as the least lingual person in We Are Naming. I speak one and maybe a quarter, maybe and a half languages, and one of those that quarter half is not Brazilian Portuguese. I'm going to ask you to say something to me in Portuguese, and I'm going to guess what it means.
Okay, I will give you a sentence, um, which is: é melhor ser alegre que ser triste.
Okay. I know Allegri might be happy, um, but triste might be sad. So I did not catch any other words. I'm gonna say it's something like, "Hey, sometimes you're happy, other times you're sad." How close am I?
Ah, that's really close.
Really?
That's I chose. Yeah, I chose because we talked about bossa nova, and that's the first line of a famous song from Vinicius de Moraes, and it says, "It's better to be happy than sad."
And that is
Yeah,
how true is that?
yeah. Yeah,
That's
that's
beautiful.
incredible. That's a good song to represent the Brazilian spirit, the Brazilian soul. It's better to be happy than sad.
We all need that advice all the time.
Yeah,
Felipe, thank you so much for joining me. Such a
thank you.
pleasure to talk naming with you. Always and forever. Very happy to share this conversation with the world. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Until we speak again, bye bye.
Thank you. Abraço.
Thank you for listening. How the World Names is produced by me, Caitlin Barrett. Music is by Alex Kulik. Subscribe to our newsletter at wearenaming.substack.com and submit a question for a future episode. If you'd like to partner with us on a global naming project, visit wearenaming.com to find out more.